We're live, baby. I'm trying to figure out the best place to put this bad boy down. You know what I mean? There we go. Oh, no, that doesn't really show my face good. Mm, Maybe we go right here. All right. We're talking UFC 243, UFC in Australia, Melbourne main event, Whittaker versus Adesanya. Adesanya has had such a fast rise. Um, in the UFC. He's stayed active. He's beat top guys. His last fight against Kelvin Gastelum was really the telltale of like where this guy's at and where his potential can be. Going through a war like that, um, facing adversity, a high level striker and wrestler, and coming out on top and really um, just doing amazing in the fifth round. Boomachino style, baby. We ain't slacking. We ain't missing nothing. I can't put it there, can I? It'll block everything. Put it back over there. Boom. Um, yeah, so I want to talk about the main event to start. Obviously, Whitaker's been out for quite some time. He's had that bowel, mishap, and he's had surgery on his hand, I believe. But let's not forget the guy went to war with Yoel Romero twice, and he showed in that fight what we were all wondering about Israel is, we already know about Whitaker is he's got heart. He's able to come through adversity. He's able to do 5 rounds hard. He's able to mix it up and keep guys guessing on the feet. Both are somewhat counter strikers. I would give Israel the advantage in the counter striking. I think, overall, the guy coming from a kickboxing background, he's at the highest level of striking pretty much. When you see him strike and you see other UFC fighters strike, it's just different levels. MMA striking is just a little bit sloppier looking than, kickboxing or Muay Thai. We tend to move a little bit different. And you can see that in Whitaker. Whitaker is kind of darting forward with right hands and cutting angles with his hands down. And, not to say that's not successful or that doesn't work. Obviously, it's worked great for him, but it's just a different style. There's really no rule of thumb on how you should strike in MMA and how you shouldn't strike. It's really just find yourself as a fighter, find what works for you best, and keep people guessing and on their toes. And you could have success with any style, really. Um, Whitaker's a bigger guy than Gastelum. I don't think the fight against Gastelum is a perfect measure marker for how this fight's gonna go. Whitaker's a different style of striking. He's a bigger guy, a little bit taller. He comes with a different kind of style with the way that he mixes things up on the feet and the way that he moves and cuts angles and stuff like that. He's got a little bit uh power wise, I don't know who I'd give the advantage there. Maybe Gastelum does have the same kind of power. We don't really know that. It's hard to gauge power in this game, but obviously, Gastelum's pressure game did him wonders in that fight, gave him a lot of success, but I don't know if Whitaker's gonna follow the same blueprint. I don't think he will. I think he'll bring a whole new outlook to this fight. I think if he wants to have success, he should bring a lot of wrestling early on, mix up the takedowns with the strikes, keep Adesanya guessing and be in his face. Don't give him time to figure out his range and his counter striking and let him get in his groove. Adesanya is one of those fighters who he's a rhythm fighter also. Kind of like Anderson Silva, just the new school Anderson. Like he likes to get into his rhythm and kind of work his game and dance around and feint and make you miss and make you pay. So you can't allow him to develop that confidence as the fight goes on. That's when he becomes more and more dangerous. I think Whitaker needs to start strong first and second round, be in his face, be aggressive, be backing him up, which is easier said than done because Adesanya is going to be feinting, keeping him guessing. He's going to be throwing out big kicks, fancy strikes, switching stances. playing mind games. It's hard to deal with that, and when that comes into play, it's hard to even get your game going. So that's going to be a tough task, but it's really hard to pick this fight. I do see it going the distance, or at least to the later rounds. I don't see an early finish in this fight. It's going to be tough between this fight and the Ally Quinta Hooker fight. What's going to be the fight of the night? If this fight goes the distance, I got to imagine it's going to be this one, 5 rounds versus three. But man, Adesanya is just growing very fast. His confidence is growing. His momentum is very powerful right now. It's at an all-time high, and I don't think people factor that in as much as it should be. I truly believe momentum is a extremely powerful thing in this game. When you're doing well, when you're winning fights, and you keep feeling that victory, feeling that glory, and you're beating guys like Anderson Silva, who's legendary to you, who you grew up idolizing, and then you go through a war with Gastelum and you come out on top, and you showed in that fifth round, that final round, when it came to fight or flight mode, that you were there to fight, that you were willing to die and stay in there. That's big stuff, man. That's powerful for Adesanya to know going into that fight with Whittaker now. And Whittaker being out of the cage, they talk a lot about the you know ring rust, which I don't know if it's true or not. It really depends on the person and if they genuinely think about it or feel it. Who knows? It's really something that we don't know if it's true until after the fight. Then we can, use it as speculation to say, oh, it could have been the ring rust. He was out for 16 months. Maybe that played a factor. Maybe this played a factor. It's all really here, he say, she say, but who knows what the real facts are. Some fighters go into fights 50%. They're injured, they got sprained ankles, this and that. Nobody knows, they're not going to release this information. Overall, when it comes down to this, my mind, it's just one of those things where I use my imagination, right? It is really difficult to imagine either of these fighters losing by any way, submission, knockout. It's really hard to see it. But one thing I do see is, if this fight plays out on the feet like I think it will for the majority of the fight, because I think Whittaker believes he has better striking and Adesanya believes he has better striking. So two egos like that, they're gonna try to prove it in the fight, and I feel that could be Whittaker's downfall, and I feel Adesanya will start to edge him with picking him apart as the rounds go on with the counter striking, making him run into things, with the way that Whittaker moves forward. My dad's saying Whittaker by submission, third round. I don't know. I don't even think we've seen Whittaker submit anybody uh, in the UFC. I don't know if he's not much of a submission guy. That's the thing. He has decent wrestling. He's good at mixing up takedowns, but he doesn't use it a lot. I think in this fight he needs to be successful. I don't know if we'll see a submission, but I see Adesanya winning 3 rounds to 2. I see him starting maybe a little slower. Whittaker might get round one, round two, or round one, round three, or something like that. And I think Adesanya is going to start pulling away towards the end of the third, fourth, and fifth. He's going to start to pick him apart, maybe hurt him a couple times. But Whittaker is so hard to put away. We saw against Yoel Romero, the guy does not go away. Even when he's hurt, he's stumbling all over the place. He's still dangerous. So I got Adesanya by decision. I think he's going to get it done, unify the titles at 185, and we're going to set ourselves up for maybe a Paulo Costa Israel matchup, or you know, maybe a third fight with Yoel and Whittaker. Who knows what they're going to do next? But yeah, I got Israel by decision. That's my final pick. Then we got Ally Quinta versus Hooker. Iaquinta, obviously better boxing. Hooker, better kicks, better knees. Um, Hooker threatens that guillotine a lot if you come in and try to shoot on him, which I think Al will mix in the wrestling if he's smart in this fight, because he's going to be a lot shorter, smaller guy for the weight class. Hooker likes to use his range, his kicks. We saw in the Barboza fight, he's not shy to exchange kicks with you. He starts out using a lot of leg kicks, and then he kind of moves up to the body, to the head after that. and he's trained by the same coach as Israel with Eugene Behrman. So the guy's a genius, pretty much. But Ally Quinta's got great coaches as well with Longo and Sarah. So he's a seasoned veteran in the game. He's fought world title fight against Khabib. He has that experience on his side over Hooker. Hooker's been in there with Barboza, and this is another guy, but two guys that just will not go away. One thing that plays a factor is Al fought Cerrone his last fight, and really took a lot of damage in that fight. He said he was sore for a couple months. Even when Cerrone fought again, he's like, I was watching that fight, still sitting there sore in my room. So, he took damage in that fight. Who knows how well recovered he is? I'm sure he's fine now, but once you start taking some leg kicks, it could remind you of that last fight. But Quinta looks for that big right hand. He mixes it up well. He's good inside boxing. He's good forward pressure. He's got good single leg takedowns, and he's got solid jujitsu. He's more of a positional guy than he is a submission guy. Hooker's more of a guy who takes a risk and goes for a submission when you come in on him and shoot. But I'd give the power edge in the hands to Iaquinta, and I'd give the diverse striking edge to Hooker with the knees, the kicks, the mixing it up, the switching the stances, stuff like that. He's willing to go southpaw and throw from there too. He seems pretty well rounded from both sides. If Hooker wants to have success with those knees up the middle, being that Ally Quinta is going to be shorter and trying to, try to get inside and work that takedown most likely off that right hand. He kind of lowers his level, so that knee could be successful for Hooker. Really, I think Ally Quinta has to back Hooker up, keep him against the cage, keep him cornered off, keep him, under pressure, and utilize that boxing, that inside game to have success. And I just see this fight going 3 rounds as well. I don't see either fighter succumbing to any kind of pressure or damage. I feel like they're gonna both kind of go back and forth. Alec Quincy's gonna take a couple of kicks. Hooker's gonna take a couple of big shots with the boxing of Iaquinta, and then I think it'll go the distance, and Iaquinta will just edge it out with the pressure game and with also mixing up the takedowns in there. Hooker does have good defense with wrestling, but he does give up takedowns by, going for chokes and stuff like that. So I think he'll take the risk, and Al will be able to sit him down with a single leg or a double against the cage and just kind of win by points like that with the takedown. I think he'll get the job done. Ally Quinta by decision. Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Spivak. Sergey Spivak had that short-lived debut where he got knocked out by Walt Harris. Tai Tuivasa coming off a couple losses, back against the wall. The guy's fighting at home in front of his hometown crowd, as powerful. He's gonna get this win. He's gonna do a shoey, and we know we're gonna see him drinking some shoeys out of someone's dirty shoe after the fight. This is a heavyweight contest, so someone's going down. And Tai Tuivasa is a lot faster than he looks, so I think the speed advantage is going to go to him. And I think having that hometown crowd behind him is going to give him a little edge, a little fire. And I think he's going to come out guns blazing. He's going to come out aggressive and put this guy away early. I'm going to give him the first round knockout for Tai. Luke Jumo versus Diego Lima. Diego Lima, obviously, Douglas Lima's brother. He's got the experience training with him his whole life has got to pay dividends in the end. Douglas Lima is a savage in Bellator, so you know Diego Lima's coming off a win too. I think he's coming off a knockout win. Let's see here. Yeah, he's coming off a decision win against a grinder like Court McGee. So that says a lot. And before that, he's coming off a knockout of Chad Lepre. So I give the edge to him. He has some momentum behind him, coming off a couple of big wins. Um, has a great Muay Thai, great striking, good movement, good takedown defense. Um, let's see what we got in Luke Jumo here. I'm looking up his records here. I don't know if this is his debut, and a hometown debut or what? Yeah, we might have a debut here, Luke Jumo. No, I think it looks familiar. I don't know if he's had some other fights before, but He's definitely got less experience in the cage as Diego Lima does, coming off the Ultimate Fighter as well, which is a tough task going through the house and all like that. You know, with the momentum and all, I give Diego Lima the edge here. Obviously the striking edge, and I think he'll get the job done. Maybe a second round TKO, something like that. He's got power in his hands. He's training with some of the best in the world. So Diego Lima, TKO round two. Moving down the card, we'll make some quicker picks. If we got some fan questions, get those bad boys kicking. We got the old school turtleneck here with the gold chain. You know what's going on. Boom, baby. Um, Justin Tafa, Jurgen De Castro. Jurgen De Castro is coming off the Dana White Contender Series. He was really impressive on there. Both of these guys are newcomers coming in. Justin Tafa 3-0, De Castro's 5-0, so a little bit more experience, not much. They're both the gray, but De Castro looked, got that experience to fight in front of Dana White, which I think will pay off in this fight. Fighting in front of the big crowd in Australia. He kind of got that out of the way, so I'm gonna go with Jurgen De Castro. He's a pretty aggressive fighter, so I think he'll get the job done within the distance. I think he'll get a finish within two or second or third round. Jurgen De Castro. Moving on to the prelims, Jake Matthews, Rostam Akman. Jake Matthews fighting in his hometown. This is a young kid who's a really aggressive savage in there. Um, he's a fast paced fighter, and he's coming off a submission loss to Anthony Rocco Martin, but that guy's a high level black belt, so there's no shame in that. And then he had a submission before that of his own and a decision win over Li Jingliang, who's a beast from China. So, you know, Jake Matthews has a lot more experience in this fight as well. And he's fighting in front of his hometown crowd, and that crowd's gonna get crazy loud over there with all those fans. So I'm going with Jake Matthews by decision. Callum Potter versus Maki Pitolo. I believe Maki Pitolo is fighting out of Hawaii. He's training with Max Holloway and all those guys down there. So that says a lot, grinding with world champion. That experience is not everyone gets that opportunity. So for him to be training alongside Max and to look really solid off Dana White's Contender Series, I give him the edge in this fight as well. I think Maki Pitolo is going to have the power in the hands. Potter has experience edge slightly, but I think Maki Pitolo is just going to have the speed and power advantage on the feet. And I'm going to give the TKO victory to Maki Pitolo. Brad Riddell, Jamie Malarkey. Malarkey's coming in with a lot more experience, but Brad Riddell is has a lot of background in striking. He's also training under Eugene Behrman with Dan Hooker and Israel. So I'm gonna go with Brad Riddell making a big debut here. I think he'll get the decision victory. Megan Anderson, Zahra Ferrand dos Santos. I'm going with Megan Anderson. She's gonna make a big comeback splash in this fight. I feel, fighting in front of her hometown crowd as well. She's got great striking. She's big for the weight class. She's only lost to the best of the best. So I see her, rebounding big in this fight and getting a decision victory. If not, maybe a TKO. She might out strike her and get that finish. Nadia Kasim versus Ji Yeon Kim. I'm going with Ji Yeon Kim by decision. Most times the women's flyweight fights go the distance. They're scrappy, but don't have the power to necessarily put each other away. So Ji Yeon Kim by decision. Kali Taha against Bruno Silva. Very impressed with Taha's debut against Boom Boom Salmon. Hey, boom boom, baby. We got boom boom, you know? But Taha put him out early. Big power, trains with AKA with Khabib and all those guys. Bruno Silva trains with Neuro Force One and Triple C, as they call him, the cringe master. So it's hard with both of these guys training at great camps. We haven't seen Bruno Silva really do much yet. So, looking forward to see him in the UFC and how his training with Henry Cejudo pays off and under their coach over there, maybe coach of the year, Eric Al-Bahar Hassin. Kali Taz, strong, short, stocky guy for the weight class who packs a lot of power. So, in my opinion, Taha's the favorite in this fight. I think minus 200. I think he'll get the job done. I think it's gonna be a tough task to put Bruno Silva away though, but I think, Taha will get the decision. He'll land the power shots and score big on the judges' scorecards. So yeah, that's pretty much it for UFC 243. We'll talk about some new matchups coming up. We got Henan Barrow moving back to 145 against Douglas Silva Andrade, who's also moving up. This fight's in Sao Paulo, November 16th. Man, Barrow's coming off what, four losses in a row, maybe five. This is crazy. I'm surprised he hasn't been cut yet, but they're giving him another chance. And he's fighting another scrappy guy in Andrade. I know he lost to Peter Yan his last fight, but so does everyone else, you know. And before that, Andrade has looked really impressive at 135. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is Barrow's last fight in the UFC. Andrade packs power. He's aggressive, and he's still very much, in his prime days. I feel like he's not as, washed up and on the downhill as Barrow. So I give Andrade the edge in this fight, but that's an interesting matchup nonetheless. I mean, they're obviously just trying to stack it up for, Brazil versus Brazil here. Um, Also wanted to talk a little bit about the Jeremy Stevens thing against Yair Rodriguez. I mean, the guy got poked in the eye, right? But the replay showed it was kind of weird looking. He got like scraped like that. The replay showed that it didn't seem like it was as bad as it made out to be. But obviously Jeremy Stevens is a savage. Nobody wants to believe the guy quit or anything like that. And that's not what anyone, that's not what you should insinuate. But from what I saw, it was just an interesting angle. I don't know why they didn't show the replay get a better angle of it. Yair Rodriguez came out and was kind of complaining that maybe perhaps he thought that Jeremy found a way out of the fight. Nobody knowing Jeremy Stevens would imagine that that would be the case, me included. I mean, I've seen him warm up before fights, I was in the same locker room as him, and he pretty much beats the shit out of his training partners for a warm up. He's an animal. He's aggressive, and he wants to fight. So I just couldn't imagine that quitting would be the case. But just hear me out here, and this is just observation, speculation. This isn't me saying that he did do this. It's just he's a veteran, so sometimes in the middle of a fight like that, you get poked in the eye. My only reason to find a way where someone would try to get out, maybe, is if they think that the eye poke gets called disqualification, DQ, if they can't continue due to an illegal technique. It's possible that if the ref deems it a DQ, the guy gets a victory, he gets a rematch, and they get to rebook the fight for a soon to come date, which means you get paid, whether it's your show money or your show and win money, you're getting paid, right? You don't have to even really fight. And then you get the fight a month later, so you get two or three paychecks within a couple of months instead of one or two paychecks. It's just kind of like it's fucked up to think, but I feel like money has to do with this sometimes where, it's a factor where like if a guy thinks he can get out of there with a quick DQ and get both of his paychecks, it's not a stupid idea. It's not integrity. It's not an honorable decision, but it's a possibility. I mean, I'm not saying Jeremy did this, but I'm just saying that this is a possible thing where if you're smart and you're thinking in the fight, hey, fuck it, he's the one that poked me in the eye. I can't see really. Whatever the case may be, maybe his eyes don't feel that bad, but he's like, you know what? I got poked in the eye. It's an illegal technique. Maybe I get a DQ out of this. Who the fuck knows? I can't continue. Oh, okay. Well, it's a no contest. Okay, give me my show money. I know, nobody wants to invest money and only get show money, but you get your show money, you get the fight rebooked a month later in the States, and then you get your show money and maybe your win money again. So that's, within 2 months, you're getting a little bit extra money than you would have got had you just fought, went through a war, and then you're out for like 3, 4 months. I don't know. It's just a thought. but I wouldn't imagine that Jeremy Stevens would think to do something like that because of the type of fighter he is, and you know, the kind of fights that he's been in, and the way that he talks, and the way that he trains. I mean, it's just not something I would think, but that's just a perspective from the outside that I was thinking about. An interesting way to look at it. That's all. Gregor Gillespie versus Kevin Lee. Man, big step up for Gregor. Kevin Lee was talking about moving up to 170. Then all of a sudden he's back down at 155 taking this fight because I think he thought that welterweight was looking stale. I don't know. That was an interesting take, but um this is a big fight for Gregor, and this is a tough matchup for Lee, man. Coming off a loss to Ally Quinta, now you got a guy in Gregor who's fucking wrestling is on another level compared to most guys in the UFC. I'd say like I'd love to see a fight with him and Khabib as far as just straight wrestling goes. Gregor's on a tear. He's undefeated. He's got a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence, and Kevin Lee has the opposite. You know, he's coming off losses, trying to find himself. He is training at TriStar, which is a big thing for him. I think he's finding, that structure, that high level coaching in Faraz Sahabi, which is great. I'm just really interested to see how Gregor stacks up against the top five type competition. We haven't seen anybody able to stop Gregor's pressure wrestling. He has great boxing as well. I would even give him a little edge in the boxing area than Kevin Lee. I do think Kevin Lee has good enough wrestling to put up a fight, to potentially negate some takedowns and maybe make it a striking battle. That would be interesting to see, because I think both, Gregor has good technical boxing, but Kevin Lee also has power in his hands and explosiveness, and he's got great kicks as well. So this is a great fight, man. I can't wait to see this. November 2nd, MSG. Finally, Gregor's getting that big fight, that big name guy, top five. This will put him in line for title contention if he gets a big win here, especially a finish. That'll say a lot. So looking forward to that one. Other than that, that's pretty much the big upcoming matchups that I see on here. But UFC Australia coming. We're looking forward to that. If you give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, I appreciate it. Follow me on social media at Brian Boom 135. We got new music coming out. Brian Kelleher on YouTube, this channel right here. Subscribe, that'd be great. And stay tuned. I'm putting all my music up on Spotify and all the other platforms. So I'll put the links up when they're out. And you'll see some stuff on my Instagram stories and my Instagram page as well. So thanks for tuning in. Boom. Chill.